On September 3rd, Le Monde, one of France's prominent newspapers, published an article titled "French Museums Bowing to China's Demands to Rewrite History and Erase People." The article alleges that the People's Republic of China has exerted pressure on major French museums to rename Tibet as Xizang or the Himalayan world in their latest catalogue of Tibetan artifact exhibitions. Sikyong Pimpatsaring of the Central Tibetan Administration voiced deep concern and disappointment over the issue last week, stating that France, a nation known for its values of liberty, equality and fraternity, is now complicit with the PRC in its effort to erase Tibetan identity. To explore more about this controversy further, we are joined by Tenzin Namgyal, a member of Students for Free Tibet in Paris. Welcome to our program, Namgyal.
Thank you, Pendula.
So I'd like to start by asking you, could you provide us a background on how this whole controversy regarding France's top museums changing the name of Tibet in their exhibitions began?
So this issue started at the end of August of 2024 when an op-ed by Tibet expert and Chinese expert, about 27 of them, was published in Le Monde newspaper. So in that op-ed, the Tibetologists, Tibet experts, and the Chinese experts sort of criticized the two of the biggest French museums, Guimet Museum and Quai Branly Museum, about using the term in the case of Musée Guimet, the term Himalayan world, and in the case of Quai Branly Museum, using the term Xizang to show Tibet.
So Tandamla, since you're living in Paris, and Paris is a city of art, and people appreciate art, and there's a lot of big museums of the world located in Paris, right? So can you tell us what is the significance and reputation of these two particular museums in France, and why do you think people should oppose their exhibits? And also, what does their exhibition contains?
So in the case of Quai Branly Museum, so this is the museum that was started in 2006, and this museum is reputed for indigenous art from Americas, from Africa, from Oceania, and from Asia. So this is a very reputable museum that people go to see indigenous art. And when it comes to Musée Guimet or the Guimet Museum, it has one of the largest collection of Asian art outside Asia. And this is a museum that was started in the 19th century. So these two museums have a very big reputation as a soft power on culture. And these two museums are reputed for their accuracy when it comes to history of people, when it comes to the history of Asia. So that's why I think we have to be very, very careful. And that's what I think shocked many Tibet experts and also the Tibetan people living here in France. And the problem with Guimet Museum is instead of the word Tibet, they put Tibet in brackets, and they started using the term Xizang that is imposed by the Chinese government on Tibet. And China has been trying for so many years unsuccessfully that the international community adopt this word to talk about Tibet. And in Museum Guimet, what they did is instead of Tibet, they started using Himalayan world and also a very ambiguous term called Tibetan art. Instead of saying that the art comes from Tibet, and thereby erasing the word Tibet from museum, Guimet Museum. And it is a very, very dangerous precedent because outside China, no one uses the term Xizang or Himalayan world to describe Tibet, because Himalaya is a mountain range to the south of Tibet, and Tibet is much, much bigger than the Himalayan mountains.
Tenzin, can you tell us how the museums are connected to the PRC government?
So we had a meeting with the Quai Branly Museum yesterday, and so we met with the International Affairs Advisor to the President of the museum, Mr. Clément Tougeron, and he sort of really assured us that the museum has absolutely no connection with China, nor with the Embassy of China here in Paris. When it comes to Musée Guimet or the Guimet Museum, I do not have proof that they have a good relation, but they have very good relation with China. They loan a lot of artifacts, cultural artifacts, lots of antiquities from China and from Chinese museum. And today in the Le Monde newspaper, there was an article about this, and the journalist said that he cannot divulge the name of the source, but he has confirmed information that the Chinese government had put a lot of pressure on Guinea Museum. So, regardless of whether we have proof or not, just the fact that they are not using the term Tibet. For example, they have an exposition about Alexandra David-Néel, the first French woman to reach Tibet. And they wrote in her exhibition that Alexandra David-Néel reached Lhasa in U instead of writing Tibet. In the past, it was very clearly written that Alexandra David-Néel, she reached Lhasa, Tibet. And now, instead of Tibet, they're either using U or Tsang. And when they do things like that, they are helping the Chinese government, the erasure of Tibetan identity, the erasure of Tibet, which is a political political decision by the Chinese government, and these museums are playing into the hands of Chinese narrative about Tibet and our past.
Mm-hmm. And Paris has one of the largest Tibetan community, and someone as you who is leading and who is part of this, organizing this protest with a member of Tibetan community in the city, and also I believe there is a strong sentiments are being shown by the Tibetans in Paris right now over the museum, to the museum. So can you tell us how do you, on ground, how do Tibetans feel about this whole issue, and what are their demands as of now?
I think what we need to understand is, as soon as this op-ed in Le Monde was published, 6 Tibetan associations based here in France and Paris, we had a meeting. So we had a meeting to decide what course of action we should take. And the first decision that we made was we will write a letter to these 2 museums asking why they did these changes, which were quite recent, and that we are opposed to these changes of not using the word Xizang or using the word Himalayan world. And so we requested the 2 museums for a meeting so that we can express our point of view, and so that we could try to understand why they made these decisions. And of course, the Tibetans living here in France, they were very shocked, and many were very sad to see these kind of changes. And personally, for me, I visited Guinea Museum, and for me, Guinea Museum is like a very sacred space where you can see pankas that date from the period of 5th Dalai Lama, where we can see statues of Buddhist divinities that are like 200 years old, 300 years old, these kind of things. So for many Tibetans, they were very, very shocked. And I'm very proud to say this openly. that amongst the Tibetans, especially the younger generation, younger Tibetans growing up here in Paris, younger Tibetans who have never even set foot on Tibet, they are the ones who have pushed us. They are the ones who have been leading this campaign, online. They're very good at, using social media, and they have created, really created an event on Instagram, on social media, whereby media are forced to take a look at what is happening. So and Tibetans from all walks of life, we have come together to protest against this. Last Saturday, we had a protest in front of the Guimet Museum, and I think we were about like 800 people. And and then this Sunday, we are going to have another protest, this time organized by 6 associations.
And what are the latest developments in the protests? And as you have mentioned, you have written a letter to the Musée Quai Branly, right? Quai Branly. So what are the responses from the museum? And can you update about the latest?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think yesterday we had a very fruitful meeting at Quai Branly Museum. So we met with the International Affairs Advisor to the President, and they received 6 representatives of 6 associations, and we were also accompanied by a representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Rinzin Genkan, and there was also Tupen Gyatsola, who is a member of the Tibetan Parliament in exile. And the museum, they recognized their error, and they apologized to the errors that they made, and they said that they are absolutely aware of the geopolitical issue regarding the use of term Xizang instead of Tibet. So they gave us verbal assurance that within the next 3 weeks, we will be able to see the changes made in the museum. So they will be taking out the term Xizang from all their catalog online and also the displays inside the museum. Unfortunately, Guimet Museum has not responded to our letters. So we have already sent 2 letters. They have not yet responded to us. That's why we are going to continue our protest till the necessary changes are made by Guimet. So this Sunday, there will be another protest in Paris.
And could you also talk about the future steps or the plans from the Tibetan community in France and the non-governmental organization representative like yourself to secure the history and the Tibetan identity in all of these issues that is happening right now, to be ready about these things that come up?
Yes, I think this is a sort of wake-up call for Tibetans outside Tibet, Tibetans in exile, and Tibetan friends all around the world. So as soon as we learned about this, we started looking at other museums, how other museums portray Tibet. And we have been doing that in all the museums here in France. Fortunately, we have not seen any other museums using the term Xizang. And I think one next line of action is like we will continue to protest until Musée Guimet they make the necessary changes. And already we are discussing with other Tibetan associations to how to continue our campaign against this change. And also we are looking to reach out to other Tibet support groups all around France, and also working with the International Tibet Network, who will come out with a letter that can be signed by each and every Tibet support group around the world. And I think we are around 140 plus Tibet support groups around the world. So they will also send an open letter. We are working on a sample letter to be addressed to the Guinea Museum that each and every Tibetan can either just send it as it is or adapt it according to their wish and send it by email to the museum. So according to the response that we get or not, we will continue. And I really want to reassure Tibetans living outside France that we take this thing very, very seriously, and we will not let this go, because this is the first time outside China that in a free country they're using the Chinese term Xizang. And I think this is very, very serious, and we have to stop it in the beginning so that other museums will be warned. Other museums will see that Tibetans and Tibetan supporters all around the world, they will not let Tibetan identity, the Tibetan nation, and the Tibetan people be erased. And I think this is what we have seen here in Paris.
So Tendamla, these are my questions for this conversation. Thank you so much for taking out your time and speaking to Tibettv today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bandla.
With this, we have come to the end of today's program of In Conversation with Tibettv. Thank you so much for watching.